Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the Online Warriors podcast. It is May Day. It's not actually. Is May Day an actual day?
I feel like it is. It is a holiday.
Yeah, I just said May Day because May. But
And isn't there like the Mayflower Festival or
More importantly, it's the week of Cinco de Mayo.
this is coming out on Cinco de Mayo. I dropped the ball.
does everybody have their margaritas ready and in hand?
I don't like margaritas.
Wait,
Look.
what? Who doesn't like margaritas? I mean, I don't like the standard margaritas, but I like the margarita variants. Like, I love a good mango margarita.
You give me tequila, I'm happy.
Here's the thing. I have a couple problems with margaritas, and let me take you through them. One, I have a brother. Shout out to my brother. I have multiple brothers, so they don't know which one is being shouted out. But
Yeah, just a shout out to the one.
Shout out to the one. He loves tequila. He weighs 110 pounds, soaking wet, probably.
I know which one.
You know which one. Yeah, now you know which one. But he can put away tequila like I've never seen before.
Really?
And Techtic, you would not believe it. You guys should go shot for shot sometime. Actually, that's a terrible idea. But I've gone out to, like, you know, when you have a brother, you go out to a bar with him, and we've done bar crawls together. Drink responsibly, people. But we've done bar crawls together, and he'll say, hey, let's do a tequila shot. And I'm the younger brother in this power dynamic, so who am I to say no? You know, I have to prove myself. And for reasons I don't have to get into, that's kind of soured me to tequila a little bit in general. So that's reason number one that I don't go in for margaritas. Reason number two, salt should never be in a drink, ever.
You know, the key is to replace the salt rim because I don't like the amount of salt on it either.
And it's big granulated like rocks.
Right. Replace that with sugar and it changes the experience. It is a game changer. 10 out of 10.
Because, like, you know how you go in the ocean and you're like, oh, this water is so refreshing. Then you get some in your mouth and you're like, this is awful. That's what a margarita is like to me.
There's a perfect amount of salt that anything can have. And I think the thing that has really nailed that line down is Cheez-Its. So if you exceed the Cheez-It line of salt, then you've gone too far. Too much salt.
Shout out to Cheez-Its. Not a sponsor, not a Cinco de Mayo associated product, but I love a Cheez-It. Happy Cinco de Mayo, everybody. Happy month of May. Happy May Day, whenever that was, or whatever that was. I am Illeagle 86, one of your three hosts. We, of course, have Techtic and Nerdbomber here. You've already heard from them. They sound the same, as they always do. Or if this is your first time here, that's what they sound like. Nerdbomber is the one whose voice is higher. Techtic is the one whose voice is lower, and we all have opinions.
Baritone.
Were you a baritone in, like, choir?
I didn't do choir.
You didn't do choir?
No.
Then you don't know if you were a baritone. I bet you would have been a bass.
I hope so. That sounds nice.
I was a tenor. I was a Justin Timberlake kind of guy in middle and high school. Not that I didn't like listen to him, but like that's what I sounded like.
Say it's gonna be May.
Guys, it's gonna be May. Wow, we're getting all the May references out.
I know. So I know you can actually sing. Can you please just sing it for us?
I can't because I've only heard that song a handful of times. Most of the time when I see that meme, I see it in GIF form with no audio, which kind of like bleeds the meme out of it. It's a song.
It's kind of nasally. It's like, it's gonna be May.
Yeah, so I don't need to sing it because that was perfect.
Awful.
That was like JT was here. Him and his ramen spaghetti hair. Man, the early 2000s were awesome. If you weren't around for it, you missed out. We're not going to talk about May this whole episode. That would be a great episode, but we have a gaming-centric episode laid out today. We're going to talk about Discord, and in particular, Discord in relation to PlayStation. We're going to be talking about IO Interactive and a new game they've announced that they're working on. And we're also going to talk about Returnal, because Returnal actually came out this past weekend, and kind of, I guess we'll start with that one, because we should say right off the bat, none of us have it. This is not like a first look at Returnal, what are our opinions. I think at least one of us here has a strong vested interest in having it eventually and playing it, and that is me. I don't have a PS5 yet. I hope to eventually have one. And when I do, Returnal's for sure going to be on my list. But the piece of news here, I guess, we got a lot of reviews for Returnal. A lot of them were, I would say they were pretty overwhelmingly positive. It seems like they're largely positive. Mm-hmm. But for those that aren't aware of what the game, we talked about the trailer, we talked about the game probably in the past E3 episode or something. This is one of those games where, much like the Tom Cruise movie Edge of Tomorrow or even Groundhog Days, when you die, you start over. And You essentially just do a bunch of runs. The term you're looking for is roguelite, is often used to describe games like this. Games like Everspace, which I have, which is it's a ship combat game, but same sort of principle. You do these runs and you learn new things, you gain new abilities, but when you die, you start at square one until you eventually, run the entire gauntlet and beat the game and basically in one shot without dying. This game, the quote unquote piece of news here, we kind of wanted to see it as a discussion topic. You can't save in the middle of a run. Now, I don't know. So first of all, Techtic, Nerdbomber, what's your experience with roguelites? It could be 0. It could be a lot. I honestly don't know. I mentioned mine, which is Everspace. Basically, my only experience with roguelites.
I've played a few, and I get kind of frustrated. I think the latest one that I played was Neon Abyss, which I actually had a lot of fun with. And my problem with it, I guess, is that it's a lot of the times the runs are too long, which is something that we'll talk about. And then I feel like I can't quit in the middle of them. And unless I have like an hour to play the game and sit down, or 2 hours, then I'm not like, I just don't bother, because I know I'm not going to complete a run, and then I'm going to have to start back at square one. And then I also just get frustrated at the fact that while the game mechanic is really neat and I know a lot of people like it, I get very frustrated because I am a very loot-based person. Like, I revel in RPGs and looter shooters where I get to upgrade my gear, and I put a lot of weight on that for whatever reason in the games that I play. And it really frustrates me to get a bunch of cool stuff and then lose it and have to start all over. Plus, the randomness of them can frustrate me, because you can play really well on a run, but if you're just not getting the right randomly generated weapons or whatnot, then you're not going to succeed. And I'm not the biggest fan of that. Techtic, do you have any experience with them at all?
I can't recall any games that I've played specifically, but as you guys said, kind of being able to stop and save is sort of a big bone of contention in any game. I mean, we're in a very much a society where adults game, right? And adults have responsibilities where you sometimes just have to put down the controller and turn Teletubbies on. So is life.
Do people still watch Teletubbies?
No, but the little kid, poking you and saying, "I want to watch Teletubbies," is forcing you to put your controller down. I don't know what kids watch. I don't have kids.
I think Teletubbies got canceled.
Adults game, and we sometimes need to stop, pause, and take care of those nagging responsibilities.
So Returnal. So Nerdbomber, in the roguelites you played, was there a way to save in the middle of a run, or is it just you just had to do the whole run?
So it was pretty much you had to do the whole run, and that was eventually why I stopped playing. Like I said, Neon Abyss was the last one that I played, and I think I had been playing for 2 hours straight, and I had to stop, and I had other stuff to do, and then I came back and it was done. I was like, well, this was fun. And then I never went back to it, because I was like, well, I just wasted 2 hours and I don't know how long a run is going to take. So who knows like how much time I could waste and still not beat this thing.
So to me, this is highlighting, I'm not a game designer, none of us are, but a critical design aspect of a roguelike game should be how long a run takes. So Returnal's runs are reported to take 2 to 3 hours. For me, I would say I'm an adult gamer. I don't have kids, like you said, but that's too long. I would say the upper bound of me sitting down and playing a game is probably close to 2 hours on any given day, typically a weekend day, honestly. I'll talk about my more recent video game experience a little bit later when we get through what we've been up to, but I would say even games that I'm obsessed with, I would say that after 2 hours, maybe 2.5, I'm typically like, okay, I've gone really hard, I should take a break. If I'm doing that every single time I sit down to play Returnal, that turns me off. This is something that Returnal's developers, Housemarque, by the way, seemingly don't have any plans to add this to a day one patch or any patch in the future. At the end of the day, this is a roguelike game, so they're probably sticking to that principle in as rigid a sense as possible. But I think it's an important question, in terms of this genre. How, there's another game mentioned in this article I have from IGN, Hades. Those runs take 40 minutes, typically. That's a great number.
I think that's the perfect time. And Hades has been a game that I was kind of like on the fence about, but it's won so many awards. Like, I think it was a GOTY, and it made me want to play it. And then when I started reading reviews, and I was like, oh, well, the run's already only 40 minutes. Like, that's doable. That's doable for me.
Right. I think roguelites should want to foster consistency in play. So, like, Hades sounds like a kind of game where you could do a run every day. You could say, okay, this is the 40 minutes I'm going to take to run through Hades. And that way you maintain strategies, you maintain things from play to play lessons learned basically. With Returnal, it sounds like I would play one and be like, okay, I need to just absorb that for a while. Or like, okay, I've exhausted all of my leisure gaming time for a while. At the very least, you certainly can't start another run right away. And that's Hades affords you that opportunity. If you want to take an hour and 20, you can do runs back to back and more effectively even say, okay, that run sucked because of X and Y. In the next run, I'm going to do Z. It just seems counterintuitive to me. And it's a shame because everything I've seen about Returnal outside of this, it looks like a game I would absolutely adore in terms of thematics, in terms of seemingly scares, gameplay. It just looks phenomenal.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of like the shooting aspect, everything that I've watched from this, it's like it almost gives me semi-Mass Effect vibes a little bit. I mean, not completely, but a little bit. And like it's the type of stuff, like even kind of like with Outriders gameplay, like that third-person shooter thing, like that appeals to me. And it kind of begs the question, like I know it's the developer's vision, and obviously we're not game developers, but like, is there that fine line? Like, yes, you have this vision of a game and a certain difficulty level and whatnot, and no one's really asking you to change the difficulty level, but is minding the player's time and adding that save feature, like, does that impact the storytelling in some way? Like, I'm trying to wrap my head around that, like why they would not want to put a quick save feature, because I understand they want that sense of like, there's immediate doom, immediate stuff at stake here. You know what I mean?
And also urgency.
Right. But also that, like you said, it's just, even in my younger days, yeah, I used to have really long gaming sessions, but especially a game that's as hard as Returnal, having runs that could last you 2 to 3 hours. And I mean, you may not complete it. You may die. You may get like an hour 45 in and have to start over. That's super daunting to me.
And that would sting way more, right? Than a 40-minute Hades run. If that ends after half an hour, you say, okay, well, that was a half an hour, but I'll start again. It sounds like with Returnal, I would be more likely to throw the controller down and walk away without even turning off my console, which I don't do often.
The interesting thing is they've heard the criticisms about that, and they said, nope, there's no plans to patch it.
Right. It's unclear whether that's just flat out stubbornness or, like Nerdbomber was saying, if there's some kind of method behind that madness. If they know, okay, if we added a quick save feature, it would ruin the game for some reason that we just aren't aware of. But I think another important question is, if you are Housemarque, is this the sort of thing that affects sales of this game and they eventually have to bend because they want people to buy the game and they think this might help? Because, it sounds like, based on our conversations off the air, Nerdbomber, I don't know if you would buy it now. I don't even know if you would buy it in the first place. I think you would have, but now I certainly don't know
I'm
if
a
you
hard
would.
wait for sale, because I feel like this would be something that I would pick up a couple times and then get frustrated and walk away. So for me, yeah, I'm not buying your game at $70 now.
Right. I think I still would, which I know is kind of antithetical to everything we've talked about here. How this is kind of a baffling design choice to not have an autosave, but it just looks too good to me otherwise.
And like, I think that's the interesting and fun thing about gaming, is that there are so many different preferences. Like, something that turned me completely off of the game until it's on sale, like, I've been on like Twitter and Reddit, and people are loving the game. I've seen people on Twitter who have already finished the game several times and it just came out. So it's obviously not that big of a deterrent. And I think it's one of the wonders of gaming, in that there's something for everybody, and something that may not be for you does not mean that it's not for somebody.
Right. Yeah,
that was a little Confucius-y, but
well, we need at least one of those an episode. So quota filled. I have nothing else to say about this, but I will be curious. I think we'll all be waiting to see how Housemarque responds and whether they add this to a patch. Clearly not a day one patch, but maybe a future patch. They'll decide, okay, it can be a thing that it doesn't have to be autosave. You can turn it on or off. So hardcore players can still have the option of, okay, I want a real roguelite where if I die, I go all the way to the beginning, et cetera, et cetera. It can be that, certainly, for them. But
I think that's like the perfect state. Like, if you have a game where you have accessibility options, where if I just want to play it and find the story out and shoot some things and not like pull my hair out because I died before completing a 3-hour run, I feel like in today's day, I feel like the ideal state is to have that option. But
It
again,
should-
the
yeah.
designer's intent, I don't want to tell them that they did wrong for not doing that. It just makes me sad.
It should be akin to when you start a game deciding what the difficulty level is, right? That's another way of saying I don't want a high difficulty level. I want to be able to play this for 30 minutes and say, okay, I'm going to walk away from this now. To me, those are very similar potential demands from a consumer. But
I am not afraid of putting it on easy mode. I'm one of those people where sometimes, like, I've heard a game is really good from a story perspective, but I just want to blow through and like find the story out, and I don't really care about the challenge.
World Tier 6, baby. That's the sweet spot.
see, I have too much pride for that. Did we talk about this last week? Or we talked about this off the
See,
air
by the way,
or something?
quick off-topic thing. That's why I think you would like Outriders, because there isn't quite an easy, medium, or hard, but it's just a world tier. So you can set the exact precise difficulty. That's your sweet spot.
It's not. It's for me. It's not about finding a sweet spot. It's about I can't do easy. I'm too much of a seasoned gamer. I'm not even that seasoned of a gamer, but I can't do easy because it offends my sensibilities and it offends my body of experience. I should be able to play through any game on normal mode. I actually, recently I started Jedi Fallen Order and I put it on normal mode, and I'm not going to be honest, I didn't get very far. I found it to be challenging.
It's very hard.
And I was like, I'm not lowering this to Padawan or whatever the heck it's called.
Parrying
And-
is difficult.
And I stopped playing. I think it was a combination of I found it difficult and I also didn't find it to be all that interesting. It just didn't hit me in the right way. And I'll probably revisit it at some point. But I would say a part of me
I
stopping
literally did the
playing
same
was
thing with that game, by the way.
it's tough because I think being a Jedi is you feel so powerful and everything seems so effortless, right? That is not what that game felt like. And like, I know lowering the difficulty to Padawan might make it feel that way, but then I would feel ashamed. I would feel this shame that admittedly comes from within myself, but I struggle with that. I struggle with lowering difficulty levels. So we'll see if Returnal gives me the option, and maybe I won't even avail myself of that option. I guess we'll find out. We'll be watching them to see what they do. Let us know on Twitter at Online Warriors 1, at OW Illeagle 86, at OW Techtic, at OW Nerdbomber. What do you think of Housemarque's move here? What do you think of the general idea of a game like Returnal not having a quick save or any save function in the middle of a run? Are you a roguelite purist? Is this the right move in your opinion? Are you more casual? Is it stopping you from buying the game? Do you just want to talk about chickens? Sometimes people on Twitter just want to talk about turtles or rocks. Just things. So talk to us about the game. Talk to us about something else. Who knows? We're going to move on now to a different game, though. A game that does not yet exist. We talked about IOI somewhat recently because they're working on the next 007 game. Well, it turns out they're also working on something else. IOI, of course, known primarily for the Hitman games, which I've never played, but have attained some renown. They are working apparently on a fantasy game, and in particular, a game that has dragons. And this is not very newsy, nor is it particularly an informed opinion. But you know what happened in my mind when I first read this news?
What?
You ever watch that show Dragon Tales?
Yeah, what about it?
No, I don't know what that is.
You don't know about Dragon Tales?
No.
Wait. Stop everything.
Really?
Dragon Tales.
There's like the green
Almost time
dragon
for
and the
Dragon
pink dragon or
Tales.
purple dragon.
I heard the theme song in my head. Come
Literally
along,
no idea.
Take my hand. Let's all go to Dragonland. Oh, man.
What is this?
They went to Dragonland. That's what
Well,
happened.
I mean, I gathered that much from the song, but like, I have no idea what this
Kid
is.
show. That's all you need to know.
It was a couple of children. All right. At OW Nerdbomber, someone let Nerdbomber know what Dragon Tales was. Because me and Techtic certainly cannot be the only people who were so blessed. But that's what I heard in my head. Again, not an important detail. This is a game that sounds like it's many years off. It's not even announced. First reported by Windows Central and Eurogamer. The game will be AAA in scope, early development, years away from release, and it's potentially going to be an Xbox exclusive. So let's talk about dragons in video games for a second. I've not played Dragon Age. Have either of you played Dragon Age?
I played the first one and I got very bogged down in the RPG elements. There was a lot more resource management. It's a BioWare game, but I want to say it was before Mass Effect. And
It's pretty old, yeah.
I don't know I mean, people I probably love it. Hardcore RPG players love it. I'm more on that fence where I enjoy RPG elements, but also like a little bit more light because I end up then getting bogged down and spending hours going through my inventory, and I don't like that. So I played it.
We're going to talk about this later, by the way, with my Horizon Zero Dawn experience, but go on.
So I've played it, but not super extensively.
Okay.
It's basically the long-winded way of saying, yes, I've played a little bit of it.
I mean, the term dragon video game, leaves a lot up to the imagination, right? I guess the question I would generally have, and I'll come over to you, Techtic. If you're going to play a dragon video game, do you want to be the dragon? Do you want to be someone who rides a dragon? What do you want out of a dragon video game?
So because it's not like a Bethesda studio making this, I really hope it's not where there's just dragons around and you're some, knight or whatever.
That was Skyrim, right?
Right.
Is that what you're referring to? Okay.
I hope that... Do you guys remember the show American Dragon, Jake Long? I believe it was a Saturday morning cartoon.
This time it's my turn to not remember. So I'm the odd one out?
It's about a young Asian American boy who his family line, they can all turn into dragons. And they're not like these epic proportion dragons. They're like bigger than the human size, but they're like just, it's almost like a human turning to a werewolf type size being.
So are they humanoid?
Yeah. And that's sort of what I hope for. I hope you're this character that has the ability to transform into a dragon and fight and use pepper breath and all sorts of things like that. That's what I want to see from this studio.
Pepper breath?
Yeah, it's a Digimon reference for you.
Oh, I was assuming like you breathe fire. Is that what pepper breath is?
Yeah.
Interesting.
I want a How to Train Your Dragon type video game. And this is what I thought we might be getting out of Scalebound, which ironically was another Xbox exclusive. And that one, obviously, we all know that got stuck in development hell and then got canceled. But like, I want to be able to have a dragon pal that I get to ride through the skies. And I don't want to fight dragons. Like maybe like other people riding dragons, but like, I don't want to be like Techtic said. I don't want it to be like Skyrim where I'm a sword wielding gal who is trying to fight the evil dragon. Like I want to be pals with the dragon. I want to save the day with my dragon friend. And I want that's what I want. So
I think you want, so point of reference for me, not a game, not a show. Do you read the Inheritance books? We talked about Chris Polini when you were talking about that other book you wrote.
Yeah, To Sleep in a Sea of Stars. Yeah, I want like an Aragon experience.
You want an Aragon experience because you want the dragon to be, because I think Aragon is primarily, and by the way, if you haven't read these books, you should go read them. They're fantastic. He's a guy with a sword. So theoretically in this game, you would be a guy with a sword. But
you're still pals with the dragon.
You're not only pals with the dragon, you're mentally connected to the dragon. The dragon, in a sense, because the dragon hatches for you, you get certain powers, in a sense, from the dragon. So there's a deeper connection there. And the dragon would, assuming this is kind of a story-driven game, would be a character and would, in some way, talk to you, right? There's a good way to do this. To me, it would be the Inheritance trilogy of the game, but I doubt that's happening. They made an Aragon movie that, bombed. Do you remember this?
Yeah, I remember, didn't Avril Lavigne do the theme song for the movie too? They did make an Aragon video game. I don't think I ever played it, but it was out there in the world.
They did, really?
Yeah, it was on the PS2 and GameCube, I think, back in the day. It was a movie tie-in. So
right.
It was only as good as the movie, which was not that good.
I did not watch the movie, but I've heard only bad things about it. So,
I think because I went and saw that movie. And now this is a bit of a tangent, but I went and saw the Aragon movie adaptation with people who hadn't read the book, and they were like, "Oh, this is great. The main character is so dreamy, and there were dragons. It's like Lord of the Rings for kids." And I was like, "I hated it. It's nothing like the book. This is terrible."
That's what you sounded like when you were younger. I hated it.
I hated it.
Well, you hated it. But getting back to this dragon game, it's hard to imagine. Well, I guess it's not hard to imagine it not being tied with some IP, but man, I'm really attached to this Inheritance cycle idea. I always want to call it the Inheritance trilogy because it was a trilogy initially, and then they were like, no, there's a fourth book.
Well, I mean, could you imagine how big that last book would have been? Because the fourth book was a chonker. So, you would have been reading that book forever.
Right. They were getting into, Harry Potter territory with that. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I never played Skyrim. So Skyrim, you just you go around doing the dragon shout at them, but they're just kind of there. They're just around.
The dragon is the bad guy you have to defeat at the end. So, you have to defeat him. And then 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 you have to It's basically you're a townsfolk almost, and you get to choose your story because there's many, many different story paths you can take, but you can choose your own story and then eventually defeat the dragon, I believe.
The term is forge your own path.
Oh, okay.
Did you ever defeat the dragon?
No, I couldn't even defeat some of the lower level dragons.
You got stuck as like a wolf person, right?
I got stuck in the wizard college. I went to the top of the tower and punched the strongest wizard and didn't save for like 5 hours before that I got there.
Mistake.
So every time I would respawn, I'd get attacked by every wizard in that place. And I just said, well, rage quit.
And you never played the game again.
I never played it again.
Wow. Pretty good.
Kind of a Returnal theme almost.
There is a game I played with a dragon in it because you mentioned the dragon being the final enemy.
Spyro?
I sure think that's how The Hobbit was. The Hobbit game when I played it. Because if you know anything about The Hobbit, you know there's a big dragon at the end. But I don't remember that at all. I remember that game being really good, but I don't remember the dragon part. So
I will say we are leaving out Spyro. He does need to get some love, but I feel like, yes, Spyro's a dragon, but I don't view that as a dragon game.
It also doesn't jive with the, what's the word I'm looking for? I want to say genre that
like
this
medieval.
Not medieval, but I can't place a Spyro type game under these developers.
Yeah,
it's like a cartoony platformer, right?
Right.
It's just a different thing entirely.
This is like a dark, well, I'm assuming, we don't know any details about it, but just from Hitman and probably what the 007 game will be, we're talking about like some kind of probably dark and gritty experience.
Well,
I would
I'm saying
be surprised.
American Dragon, Jake Long.
I want a dragon assassin. Well, dragon assassin doesn't make much sense. Dragons are pretty conspicuous, but it would be cool to be like a dragon mercenary, almost kind of like a Witcher character.
That would actually be really dope.
I'm picturing like a regular assassin, but they can transform and leverage their abilities to be stealthy and like hide in the shadows and fly on the walls, or
change
certain,
the color of your
certain
scales.
power kills. Like maybe just one hand changes to claws and rip out a guy's throat. And then, or maybe their head just transforms real quick to a dragon, and then they burn someone's face. Almost like I guess a prototype type game spin-off off of this concept.
That's an interesting idea. Clearly, there's a lot we don't yet know, so we'll stick a pin in this. But that's our general thoughts. I think I know Nerdbomber is generally on board. It just seemed like you were when we talked about this as a potential topic.
Oh yeah. I
simply don't know enough, but we all have a lot of ideas. IOI, feel free to reach out. We'll be here. We're going to talk about dragons a little bit later, actually. This is my second tease of my update, but I have a pretty beefy update this week, so we're going to talk about dragons a little bit later. But first, we're going to take a break. But first, before taking a break, we are going to, of course, shout out our fantastic Patreon producers, Mr. Ben Checkness, Mr. Stephen Keller. Here's to you. We raise our glasses. I actually am holding a metal water bottle, but I'll raise it to you. Stephen and Ben have been Patreon producers for us. Stephen for a little bit now, Ben for quite a while. Their contributions are most welcome, and they are knights always welcome at our round table. As knight level subscribers to our Patreon, they get access to the monthly secret segment and vlog, of course, but they also get input into our weekly game segment, which is coming up later. I think Nerdbomber is hosting this week. Maybe?
Yes, sir.
And they also, of course, get this producer shout out. So you want to be a knight, but you can also be a squire, which gets you access to the monthly secret segment and vlog. And then there's, of course, the lowly page, which gets you access to the monthly secret segment. So for more of the details on any of those tiers and how to get back to the show if you've enjoyed listening, you can head over to patreon.com/onlinewarriorspodcast. Check us out there. Check us out here in your ears. And stay tuned for a word from an additional sponsor. We'll be right back to talk more about video games.
Brush is an electric toothbrush that will change the way you think about brushing your teeth. With powerful sonic technology and ultra-gentle bristles, the Brush redefines what it means to have super clean teeth. It's like that feeling when you just leave the dentist, a fresh whole mouth clean, every single day. Our listeners get 15% off their total purchase with code POD15. Follow the link in the show notes and enter the code POD15 to get your exclusive discount and upgrade your oral care routine.
Thanks again to Bruce for sponsoring this episode, and now back to the show.
Discord. You all know about Discord. It's that thing you use to talk to people, particularly when you're gaming. We actually, fun fact, we use Discord for our coordination of this podcast. I live in a different place than Nerdbomber and Techtic, and so we need a way to communicate that's effective. And I'm sure we used Facebook Messenger for a while, but we eventually switched over to Discord, which this is not an advertisement for Discord, by the way. You might be thinking there's a second advertisement. It's not, but they're great.
You can have fun GIFs or GIFs or whatever you want to call them all the time in your chats. It's great.
You can put bots in there. I'm in another Discord server where we have a certain bot.
You're cheating on our Discord server.
Oh, I'm cheating. You have no idea. But we have a bot that it's this board game group that I play board games with, and there's a bot there where if you just type .bgg and then the name of the game, it goes and like links you to the Board Game Geek webpage and like gives you a small blurb about what the game is, how heavy it is, what mechanics it uses, etc. It's pretty cool. Discord's awesome, and they are now partially owned by PlayStation. This news is coming in direct response, it would seem like. Did we talk about the other buyout on the podcast for Discord? I'm kind of trying to remember if we did.
I don't think we did, because by the time it was reported and then we recorded the show, it was already like debunked and called off. So
Microsoft was thinking about buying Discord at one point. Discord was in a round of talks with them.
For a boatload of money.
For a boatload of money, $10 billion, I think is what it was. Those talks, for some reason, disintegrated. It's not super clear why. Of course, these things happen behind closed doors. But now, PlayStation has bought a minority stake, and the two companies are looking forward to work together in the future on who is to say. But one thing I want to talk about here, in addition to the fact that we use Discord and like Discord, I want to talk about PlayStation's kind of social functionality. So, have you guys ever sent... And we can go back to previous generations too, like Xbox 360. I don't think I've ever once sent a text message on PlayStation. I guess mostly because there's not a keyboard. But, should I see this as an opportunity or see this as a sign that PlayStation's looking for an opportunity to improve kind of the social aspects of their console that are on the console itself?
So, you can send messages using your phone in the PlayStation app on your phone. And that's sort of easier to chat that way, similar to the Xbox app as well.
See, I didn't even know that. So that's a failure on PlayStation's part.
But that's why I think this integration is really key and kind of a smart move. It might allow them for more seamless integration with these more well-known apps that are commonplace with a lot of people's devices. And so the use of these chats and not even just the use, but like beyond just chatting, you can use Discord for streaming and various other things that is very, very popular now and is only going to continue to grow as we progress as a society. So
140 million users currently, by the way.
This was a good move.
Well, I think one of the key things too, and I think why we saw both Xbox and PlayStation trying to get into this market is because, like we said, Discord is super popular, and I think if you could somehow link your console messaging system into Discord, I think you have a pretty big leg up. Because I think one of the things that I really miss is that, like, if we want to play cross-play Rocket League with someone who's on PC, like, okay, yes, Xbox, if they have the Windows Xbox app, technically you can talk to each other. But realistically, most people on PC use Discord. Or even if, like, you have someone and you just want to chat playing, like, Among Us or something. And I know Among Us hasn't hit all of the consoles yet, but if you wanted to, like, not everyone is going to be on the same console. And so having that connection with Discord would make life so much easier. And I think this is big for PlayStation, because I think when you think of like voice chat and parties and stuff, heck, Xbox, I'm pretty sure they're the ones who came up with the term party chat, PlayStation kind of came in after the fact with that online connectivity sort of stuff. Like, I know they had it with the PlayStation 2 era, but having that like super easy party chat was pretty much forwarded by Xbox. So now it seems like if PlayStation can kind of get a leg up in this communication era, and I believe they're getting Among Us first, I feel like that could be a pretty big win for them.
It's interesting, of course there's a huge difference between a minority stake and a company coming in and saying, we're going to buy you. But you have to wonder behind closed doors, again, what Microsoft said versus what PlayStation said. And whether Discord liked PlayStation better for any particular thing they mentioned as wanting to, work towards in terms of integration. We may never know that. But
Well, I mean, if I'm Discord, if I'm the people who created Discord, first of all, I'm pretty sure Discord was created as sort of like a passion project initially. Like, obviously, it's free to use. Like, we don't pay anything to use it. And you look at when Microsoft acquired Mixer, obviously Mixer was not on the same level of Twitch and was fighting an uphill battle, but basically that just got shuttered within a few years of Microsoft owning them. And if you're Discord, I mean, I personally would have been concerned that they would roll it into like the Xbox party chat and then Discord just becomes, or the next Skype app or something. You know what I mean? I feel like it's more attractive to stay. And again, we have no connections to the people at Discord, Microsoft, or Sony. But if I'm the people who own Discord, I would not like the potential to be either rolled into Skype or Teams or be the next Mixer that just gets disintegrated.
Yeah, I think it's important to really look at the different approaches between the two companies. One, buying a company, the company that's being bought really has to sign off on that. Whereas
no agency really once they're bought.
A minority stakeholder, I'm pretty sure they could just buy sufficient amount of shares to be define that term, and they don't really need approval from the selling party.
I don't know how it works. This is a diversifying your portfolio thing.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
I'm just saying, like, the definitions of these two are critical to the point that Nerdbomber just said one relieves kind of creative direction, whereas this is more of a collaboration.
This is above my pay grade, I think. So I'm going to not say much more about it, but, you know, I obviously like the direction of, you know, Discord being integrated with console. I think the ability for cross-console and console to PC communication is worth whatever they wind up doing. And, you know, it may be that things don't change at all. Discord remains exactly how it was, and PlayStation just has a cut of that. You know, it is interesting. I don't know how Discord or if Discord makes any money. Like you said, it's kind of a passion project. It's one of those things, but I'm certainly open to the collab. Let me put it that way.
See, I think I'm happy with this direction because, I mean, I was saying that if I owned Discord, I would be concerned about it rolling into Skype. But as a very fervent Discord user, like, I like the way that Discord operates. I like the different channels that you can break a server down into. I like that because, I mean, we even use that from an organizational standpoint. I would say we, at the Online Warriors, we use Discord almost like Slack in a way, where we have the different channels that kind of have different work streams, and one is just like a just chatting type thing. And I would hate to see that change. So when Microsoft was considering buying it, I was like, oh God, I don't need another Teams experience in my life. I already do that for 40 hours a week at my day job. I don't want to roll this into Teams or anything like that. So I'm low-key kind of happy about this.
Well, there we go. Nerdbomber is low-key kind of happy. Seems like we're all low-key kind of happy.
I just want my GIF bot to stay the same.
Right. What more can a girl ask for? The GIF bot's amazing, by the way. For anyone who has Discord, go grab the GIF bot. It's used pretty much daily in our Discord server, so strong recommend. We're going to move to the What Are You Up To Wednesday right now because, as I've mentioned a few times before, I'm pretty excited about that. I'm going to go first because I have a couple of things to update on. One, of course, Horizon Zero Dawn. I don't know if I mentioned this last week. I probably mentioned that I either had just started to play it or was going to start playing it. But
you said that you had started playing it and you were already hedging that you weren't going to like it down the line.
Right. So I'm going to de-hedge a little bit.
I love this.
I do like it. Again, it's still towing that line of it's arguably too much RPG. Like you mentioned inventory management before, and that's what got me thinking about it again. There's inventory management, there's a lot of talking to folks, but the gameplay is too good to be denied at this point. You know, I've made it past the proving. I've started actually taming animals and riding them. This isn't really spoilers. This is generic mechanics that you could probably already figure out. I just cleared a bandit camp. The stealth elements are really great, and the gameplay is really starting to tighten up as we get out of exposition and more into just me kind of roaming around. I climbed my first tall neck. You know, I'm just kind of checking a lot of boxes at this point. So I'm going to just kind of turn around on that and basically say it's really good. It's going to give me a lot of gameplay because I'm a big side quester. I've already done quite a few side quests. I'm going to keep doing more. So it's going to take me a long time to beat. So expect to hear more about Horizon Zero Dawn from me.
How are you finding the story so far?
It's fine. I don't know enough yet. I'm so early. Yeah. I was just made a seeker. I basically just left the Embrace and I'm just out doing stuff. But like past that, I don't know much yet.
Yeah, I feel like you need to discover more before it really sets in.
Yeah, I generally like it, but hasn't cut deep into me yet. Let me put it that way. So that's one facet. And the other update for me is a little bit, I would say it's major in the sense that I have said many times on this podcast, many times, too many times to count, more than likely, that I'm not a Game of Thrones person. Never watched the show, never read the books. I just decided, sometimes you just decide things arbitrarily. Just you wake up one day and you decide, I'm going to start reading Game of Thrones. And I got it for free from my local library on my Kindle, didn't even leave the house. And I started reading it. And I have to say, I'm 20% in, I think exactly 20% into the first book. And I'm pretty taken in by it. It's, I'm about to slam George R.R. Martin. So if you're a big GRRM guy, maybe turn the volume down for a second. He's not a great, like, the writing is not knocking my socks off. It's, I don't want to call it pedestrian because that sounds pedantic of me to say that it's pedestrian, but it's not like J.R.R. Tolkien. It's not like Shakespeare. It's not like, earth-shattering writing, but it's fun. I haven't read fantasy in a while outside of J.R.R. Tolkien, which I don't really count that because I know what's going to happen when I read all the Lord of the Rings books. And to an extent, I do know what's going to happen, with Game of Thrones. Like I'm, 20% into the first book, so I'm reading about Eddard Stark, knowing that he is not long for this world, right? I mean, I grew up, not grew up, but I lived during, when the show was coming out. So I know what happens to Eddard Stark. I know what happens to a lot of people, but I'm enjoying the journey. I have to admit, I'm enjoying it more than I thought I would. I kind of downloaded it on a whim thinking I'll try it and I'm not going to like it because of one experience I had in a Barnes & Noble many years ago where I picked it up and leafed through it and decided there were too many characters. And there are a lot of characters, but for all the complaints I just leveled about George, he seems to be doing a good job right now juggling those characters and the vast geographical distances that seem to separate them. So
I will say, as someone who read the majority of the books, I think I trailed off at the last one that actually came out. I don't think I finished it. It's sitting on the bookshelf, but I just haven't read it. And someone who watched the show, at a certain point, the books do diverge. So you won't know everything that happens. The books and the show diverge. But you won't know everything.
No, but I sure haven't hit that point yet.
It will be many, many, many pages because the books are pretty hefty and there's a lot of them.
Yeah. And I know I think the show mostly deviated in the last season that everyone hated, but I don't know. I also I don't have firm plans to watch the show. I might never watch the show, or I might finish the books and say, oh, now I'm going to watch the show and see how they compare. I couldn't say, but obviously it's quite an undertaking that I'm beginning. So it's really, my update is I've started two things that are going to take me a long time. So I'll either stop talking about them so I don't have to bore you with the continued details of them, or you'll hear about them a lot because that's what I'm going to be into. The last thing I want to mention is PSA. One of the Land Before Time movies just got added to Netflix.
Ooh.
Not the first one, the second one. Great Valley Adventure or something. I don't know. Watched it last night. Fell asleep to it. A+ to that. Techtic, my friend. My good old buddy pal. What's going on over there?
So I want to talk about something that really excited me, and that is the movie Mitchells vs. the Machines. I have to tell you guys, this movie is capital F fantastic, and you do not need children to watch it. It is fun for the adults. I was literally cracking up through the whole movie. I mean, I haven't laughed this much at an animated film in quite some time, and I could not stress how much I recommend this movie. Just to give you a little plot point, it's a family called the Mitchells, and they're against the machines, a bunch of robots that are trying to take over the world. And that's all I'm telling you. Check it out. It's fantastic. That is all.
From the Spider-Verse people, right?
From the Spider-Verse people. They did an amazing job. All the references for adults, and it's great.
The animation style, very reminiscent of Spider-Verse, that mesh of 2D and 3D. Love it.
There you have it. I mean, yeah, I haven't watched it yet. I know you guys recommended it to me. I will move it up the queue.
Definitely do that. I was surprised when the trailer came out last week. I didn't realize it had come out this weekend, but it was a really fun watch. I would say it was a heartfelt family animated show, and I was a big fan of it.
Duly noted. Okay, Techtic, short update. Nerdbomber, anything for us?
So I had a very gaming-centric weekend. The first thing that I will start off with also included Techtic, so we can kind of merge this part of the update. We started playing It Takes Two on the PlayStation 5, and it's a blast so far. We are about, I think, 3 chapters into the game. The game is divided up into different chapters based on different settings of the game. And I will say, even though we're not very far in, every section of the game presents different mechanics that you have to kind of work with. Either you get different tools, primarily different tools, but then that lends itself to different ways to solve puzzles and problems and work through the world.
And it's all collaborative.
Right. And that's basically the key thing, is that you have to work with your cooperative partner. You cannot play this game solo. It is a solely co-op game. And there's a decent amount of communication that you have to work together to kind of solve puzzles and figure out how you're going to progress. And I was a big fan. I mean, I think all of even like from a pure gameplay perspective, everything feels super tight and super fun. Like, I'm never really frustrated by the controls at all or anything like that. I think, again, like the art style is really fun, and even like the quips are pretty funny. I mean, Hazelight, they're known for A Way Out, and the developer, every time we see, I'm forgetting his name, I'm blanking on his name right now, but every time we see a trailer or a presentation by him, like, he just seems like a fun, energetic type guy, and that definitely shines through with this game. It is very much about a relationship between a couple of parents who are getting divorced, and their daughter basically turns them into her 2 toys by wishing on this relationship book that they'll be able to find a way to be friends again and to stay together. And so it's basically a series of lessons on how to work together in a relationship and communicate and, find your way back to working together. And I really, really, really am enjoying it. The settings are super fun. I mean, there's militaristic squirrels. There's a evil vacuum. I don't want to get into too many details, but like, it's fun.
The biggest takeaway from it is it's not like Grounded, where you're just miniaturized in this grand world. Yes, they are miniaturized in this grand world, but there's also a sense of fairy tale aspect to it, where everything that was just kind of an inanimate object is now alive and has a personality, and it brings this whole new world and perspective to the mundane, and so it's really enjoyable.
So far, definitely would recommend it. It's gotten great reviews in all of the media outlets. It's definitely well deserved. I think it's sold like gangbusters, and
it's on sale right now. I don't know if you mentioned that, but I almost bought it because it's on sale right now. Is that why you bought it?
No, I pre-ordered this game because I was really excited about it.
Oh, right. Yeah, we talked about this on the podcast before.
Mm-hmm. This was this and Ratchet and Clank were my 2 major pre-orders for the spring. So
I think it is on sale right now, though, for what it's worth. I don't know exactly how much for, but it's definitely on my radar as a potential couch co-op game. So I appreciate the endorsement.
Yeah, it's definitely a fun one. And then my other update is another game. So Techtic is amazing. I think I tweeted out a couple weeks ago or maybe last week that our Xbox One S is failing. It is a slow machine. It takes forever to boot up. It basically crashes a lot and boots you out of whatever game you're playing. It was getting very frustrated. I was getting very frustrated. And so
was it.
Yeah. And I was playing the can I find this in stock without paying a scalper $800 sort of game. And so Techtic, the gracious person that he is, woke up at the crack of dawn when he got a stock alert and got the Xbox Series X. So now we are like firmly rooted in the next gen.
I'm jealous, not gonna lie.
Get yourself a Techtic.
Yeah, get yourself a Techtic, Illeagle.
Too real.
And so I decided to play Call of the Sea because it's an Xbox exclusive. It's been optimized for the Series X, and I'd heard really good things about it. It's voiced by Cissy Jones, who's known primarily for her roles in Firewatch and The Walking Dead. And essentially, you're a woman who goes on a trip to this island, and this is set like back in the day. And you take a boat to this island where your husband went and went on an expedition to try to find a cure for your disease, and their boat crashed. And so you're basically going on this exploration to try to find him. And the art style is fantastic. The story is really enthralling. Like, I really want to know what happens. There's a lot of like mystery and mystique, and like you get on this island and there's this mystical goo because you find all of the notes from your husband's expedition and you don't really know what it does. And so you're trying to like kind of piecemeal your way to figure out what's going on this island and where the crew of your husband's expedition and ship would disappear to, like what happened to them. And there's a lot of puzzle solving. And I think if this wasn't an Xbox exclusive Illeagle, I would totally be recommending it to you. I think you might be able to play it on PC, but I don't know if you have a PC machine either.
You're just rubbing salt in the wound now.
But it is, I mean, it's definitely more of like a walking simulator sort of game, but with a lot of puzzles. And like you have to constantly scour the environment for clues and basically take your husband's research clues, whether it's like notes from his experiments or you find like random signs around the island, and you have to figure out then how to progress. And some of the puzzles, I'm not going to lie, kind of brain bending. It's like, it's one of those games where your character takes notes as you find certain clues along the way, and then you're sifting through pages in your notebook to put something together once you get to the end of a chapter of the game. But I mean, so far, I'm really enthralled by it. The graphics are great. The story is pretty interesting and has me at attention. The puzzles, I'm not the biggest puzzle gamer, and I feel like sometimes I could use Techtic's help, but so far I'm like pushing through and feeling proud of myself for doing so. But yeah, I'm having a really good time with it, and I feel like it kind of came out and it got a little bit of hubbub, but wasn't super talked about. I feel like it flew a little bit under the radar after all of the different like conferences and previews that it had. And I would say that if you are on the fence, definitely worth trying out, especially since it's included with Game Pass.
Right on. I'll have to buy an Xbox. That's that's the takeaway here for me. But right on. Very cool. So we got some game recommendations there. We got some. I gave you a Game of Thrones recommendation as though you needed it at this stage of your life. That's what we've been up to, and now we can move into quiz mode with our quiz master, Miss Nerdbomber. Before we do, let's get a look at the standings. I don't know if I gave a standings update last week.
I don't think we need to.
I think we need to, because I'm actually, if I'm not mistaken, I believe Illeagle 86, which is me, 6-2. Nerdbomber also 6-2. Techtic 3-4. So
the lowly page.
The lowly page. So Techtic, as always, a lot of pressure on you. And with that in mind, let's get started.
All right, so this topic, I feel like Illeagle, you're going to be like, oh no, I'm not going to know anything about this.
And then win.
No, but I tried to keep this not super like lore specific. The topic that was chosen was Mass Effect.
You know what? Challenge accepted. Challenge accepted.
Like I said, I tried to not keep it like super steeped in lore. I tried to keep it more about the franchise, like as an external whole.
I mean, look, we have to help Techtic somehow.
We do. But this is partly in honor of the Legendary Edition coming out soon. So I think it comes out like the end of the month or something.
Gonna be legend.
Wait for it. Dairy. So we'll hop into it with the first question. We'll have Illeagle go second, so you have a little bit more.
So he has the advantage. Good.
Yes.
No. I want to go first.
Okay.
I want to prove myself here.
So when did the first Mass Effect game release?
2007.
I think that's right.
It sounded like I knew, but I don't. I do feel like it's a good guess, though.
2007.
You can't guess the same one, can you?
You can if you want.
What is our rule on this?
We either both lose or we both win.
Okay, so
which really makes it irrelevant.
You both got it right. It makes this question irrelevant. It came out November 20th in 2007.
Come on, Techtic. Come on. Dang it. Well played, I guess.
I'm like, I distinctly remember in high school when that came out, and then that's why I was like, sugar honey iced tea.
Crazily enough, it was actually an Xbox exclusive when this game released. So it's no longer an Xbox exclusive, but it was back then.
Well, it's either 1-1 or 0-0, whichever way. I don't know whether you're a glass half full person or a glass half empty person.
I'm going to be optimistic and give you guys both points.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm on the board.
For the next question, you guys know Mass Effect was steeped very heavily in dialogue and whether you would play as a Paragon or a Renegade, and your options would basically change what would happen throughout the game, who would live, who would die, what was at stake, all that good stuff. In a recent interview, a former BioWare cinematic designer, John Ebinger, said that a majority of players actually played as a Paragon, aka the good guy. What percentage of players chose this path?
It's a great question, by the way.
I think it was higher than like significantly higher than 50-50 because there was a number of glitches that I found that you can just cash in on a bunch of Paragon points to basically be full Paragon without even trying. I did that on there was this planet with like monkeys. And every time I touched a monkey, I got +1 Paragon.
What on the earth are you talking about? I'm sure Mass Effect people know what you're talking about.
You'll get there one day.
Sounds like nonsense to me.
So I'm going to say, with that in mind, that it's along the lines of 70%.
No way, no how. I think this is close to 50-50. I think this is 53%.
Techtic gets this point, shockingly, and I was really surprised by this.
People suck.
Around 92% of Mass Effect players played the game as a good guy, according to John Ebinger.
The game decision, like I said, there's a lot of bonuses and things that force you to really be Paragon. I'm telling you.
I mean, you can play the game as a Renegade, though. Like, it's very possible. I think realistically, I think there were a lot of guidebooks that showed you how to get the quote-unquote best ending, so I feel like people probably played it that way a little bit.
I know that in my brief play, I set out to generally be a Paragon, but like, I wanted to be an edgy Paragon. You know what I mean? Like, I wanted to be like Han Solo, kind of. Like, yeah, I'm a good guy, but like,
so chaotic good.
Not that good. Yeah, but like, because you don't want to be like a Captain America. You know, it's a fine line.
So
I guess I would still be.
Please don't get her started.
I'm not going to say it.
I guess I would still be in the 92%, but nonetheless, my flabber is gasted by that answer.
There's actually, if you're interested, and there's spoilers in these infographics, so Illeagle, if you are planning on playing the games in any capacity, I wouldn't look it up, but if you've already played the Mass Effect games, there are a bunch of infographics that BioWare released after each game that showed a bunch of like statistic breakdowns of what people chose throughout the game, and it's actually very interesting because some of the statistics, much like this one, did not jive with my expectations, but very neat. So this one is actually based on a gift that Illeagle bought me.
It's pronounced GIF.
No, like a present. So Drew Karpyshyn, I don't know if I'm pronouncing his last name right, but that's what I'm going to go with, was one of the lead writers for the original Mass Effect game, and then he went on to write a prequel novelization for the series. There would eventually then go on to be an entire series of books spanning both the original trilogy and then the Andromeda follow-up. How many Mass Effect novels are there total? Notice I'm not saying book, I'm saying novels. Because there are like art books and stuff out there, but I specifically want novels.
And I'm first this time. It's 4. There's not that many. 4.
Oh, there's way more than that. I'm going to go with 9.
So Illeagle wins just because Techtic busted. There are 7.
Oh, tough break, Techtic. I'll take it. I'll take the point.
It was kind of in the middle of our 2 answers.
Right now, you guys are tied up. You both have 2 points. I have 2 and a tiebreaker if we need it. So we'll march on. This is another semi-interesting one, and I just want to make a disclaimer that we are not affiliated with the YouTuber I am about to name in this next question, nor is this answer necessarily law if you missed anything, but I just thought this was an interesting one. So Martin Sheen plays the Elusive Man in the original Mass Effect trilogy.
I love Martin Sheen. Just stop for a second. I love Martin Sheen so much.
So this is why you need to play Mass Effect. He played a very pivotal part in these games. You need
maybe the strongest argument you've ever made for these games. Go ahead.
So a YouTuber by the name of Jaguar550 compiled all of his character scenes that would be seen during a Renegade playthrough into one video. What is the runtime of that video? I figured neither of you would really have any advantage with this question.
So is Michael?
Yes.
I'm going to say 14 minutes.
Illeagle?
20.
You guys were really lowballing it considering he was a very pivotal character in this series. He had 58 minutes and 23 seconds of at least conversational airtime in the Renegade playthrough scenes, according to Jaguar 550, assuming that's accurate. But yeah, 58 minutes and 23 seconds of Martin Sheen that you could be seeing illegal if you just buckle down and play Mass Effect.
Again, very strong argument. I can't fault that at all.
Now we have a score of 3-2. Illegal is in the lead. We have one question.
Tactic, I'm rooting for you, man, but come on.
And a tiebreaker. So Tactic, you can still bring this home. Now, there was a movie adaptation of Mass Effect announced by BioWare, though no casting or production has yet started on the project. When was this project first announced?
I'm first again, right? Yeah. It's been a minute. 2013.
I'm going to say that it was right off the coattails of when the game was released and go 2007.
Okay, so Techtic gets this one because Illeagle busted. The film was officially announced by BioWare on May 24th, 2010. And since then, various actors, I think Henry Cavill?
Superman.
Yes, Superman was
Kavanaugh?
attached to... No. He was attached to play Commander Shepard, but so far nothing is official, and the movie
would be
has
totally
not been in
wrong.
production.
He would be
I
totally
agree with
wrong
that.
for that. I mean, I like him just fine. But, okay, so we're into tiebreaker mode.
We are into tiebreaker mode, and this one...
This hasn't happened in a while.
No, it hasn't. This one, Tactic may have an advantage, but he's played the game so long ago that I honestly question how many details he really remembers about the game. No.
Damn.
So, the Mass Effect series features dozens of intelligent alien races, but only a select number of races are included in the Citadel Council. How many races are considered to be Citadel races? And the Citadel is the main kind of governmental body, main hub of the galaxy.
Do we want to do the text the answer thing?
Let's do the text the answer thing. I like that.
Give me a second. Okay. You have my answer.
Whew. Tactic gets this one by 1. Illeagle texted in 5. Techtic texted in 6. The right answer was 9. So Tactic wins his first game in a while.
Wow.
With a 4-3 margin.
Obviously, I'll be filing a complaint with somebody.
See, I had 9 in my head, but I was worried that would be a bust.
So you flipped it over. Classic.
Yeah, basically.
Well, that brings us to 4-4 on the season/year. So we've all played 8 games, I guess is what this means. We've apparently come full circle. I'm at 6-2. Nerdbomber's at 6-2. Techtic is at 6-4. Sorry, 4-4. So stay tuned. I mean, it's a long year. There are more years to be had.
The next game will be the Battle of the Titans.
That's true. That's going to be a tiebreaker round.
That is going to be, Techtic, make it special. I don't know. Do whatever it is you do. We hope to see you next week for the Titan matchup. And in the meantime, you can leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. You can hit us up on Twitter. Handles already mentioned. You can talk to us about any of the topics we mentioned today or any topics that you want to chat about with us. So go hit us up there. And also, tell your barber. Tell your hairdresser. If you get manicures or pedicures, I mean, you probably don't these days, pandemic. But tell them about it.
Tell them to play it in the salon, man. We're great background music.
You know what? Tell them to
Gonna
play
be
it in the salon.
me.
That you know what? I think that's a demographic that we're missing out on. Is the salon waiting room crowd. You know what I mean? Even in pandemic times.
Around the globe, consider the online warriors for your waiting room entertainment.
I like to think there's someone sitting in a salon right now, probably with headphones on. That's me. So if this is you, I implore you to hit us up. We'll see you all next week. Thank you so much for being here. Have a great day.
Comic book stores, sports card shops, the exciting atmospheres of being a geek kid in the 90s. I'm Micah, a 36-year-old girl dad, hubby, and geek. And on the Tavern Geek podcast, my friends and I ramble on about geek culture and NBA basketball while enjoying crafted adult beverages. So, kick back and enjoy us, the Tavern